This story is about a woman who did everything right. For 5 years, she exceeded every target, won every award, trained every new hire, got perfect performance reviews. She was the best at what she did, and everyone knew it. But when promotion time came, there was always a reason it wasn't her time yet. Next year, they said. We need you where you are, they said. You're not quite ready, they said. Meanwhile, white colleagues with half her experience got promoted above her. Men she had trained became her managers. People who started after her moved up faster. And she kept telling herself to be patient, to work harder, to prove herself more. That eventually, excellence would be rewarded. After 5 years, they finally promoted her. Finally gave her the title she had earned years ago, and she was relieved, grateful, ready to celebrate. Until she accidentally saw the email chain, the one they never meant for her to see, the one that revealed exactly why it took 5 years for her to get what she should have had in 2. This is the story of Nicole Chen-Williams, 35 years old, marketing director at a Fortune 500 company in Chicago. The woman who discovered that her excellence was never the question. Her race was. And what she did with that discovery didn't just change her career. It changed the system. Stay with me, because this story is about what happens when you find out the truth. When you discover that the game was rigged the whole time. When you have to decide whether to stay silent and keep your job, or speak up and risk everything. This is about the power of documentation, the power of strategy, the power of refusing to protect people who never protected you. Nicole had been working at Morrison & Blake, a Fortune 500 consumer goods company, for 5 years. She started as a senior marketing manager, and she was good at her job. No, she was excellent at her job. Her first year, she exceeded her sales targets by 32%. Her campaigns outperformed expectations. Her team loved working with her. She got glowing reviews. At her 1-year review, her boss said, "You're doing amazing work. Keep this up and you'll be on track for VP." Nicole believed him. She thought excellence mattered. She thought results spoke for themselves. Year 2, she trained a new hire named Brad. White guy, fresh MBA, eager but inexperienced. Nicole taught him everything. How their systems worked, how to manage campaigns, how to navigate internal politics. She was a good mentor because she believed in lifting others up. At the end of year 2, Brad got promoted to VP of Marketing, the position Nicole thought she was being groomed for. Her boss told her, "Brad had a unique skill set that fit the role. You're still being considered, just need a bit more time." Nicole swallowed her disappointment, told herself Brad must have brought something to the table she didn't see, told herself to keep working hard. Year 3, another colleague got promoted, another white man, David. He'd been with the company 6 months less than Nicole. His performance was good but not exceptional, not like Nicole's. When Nicole asked why she wasn't considered, her boss said, "You're doing great where you are. We need your consistency in your current role. Maybe next cycle." Next cycle came, year 4. This time they promoted a white woman, Sarah, good at her job, but not better than Nicole, not even close. Nicole started to see the pattern, but she didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to think that race was the reason. She wanted to believe in meritocracy, so she worked harder. She took on extra projects, she volunteered for the most challenging assignments. She made herself indispensable. Year 5, performance review time. Her boss, Richard, told her she was getting promoted. Finally, VP of Marketing, the title she'd been chasing for years. Nicole felt relief wash over her. Finally her work was being recognized. Finally she was getting what she deserved. She went home that night and told her husband. She called her parents. She allowed herself to feel proud, to feel validated, to feel like the system had worked, even if it took longer than it should have. The promotion was announced 2 weeks later. Nicole Chen-Williams, VP of Marketing. Her colleagues congratulated her, some genuinely, some with barely concealed resentment. But she didn't care. She'd made it. For 1 week she enjoyed it, the new title, the new office, the validation. And then everything changed. It was a Tuesday morning. Nicole was CC'd on an email by accident. Someone in the executive suite had replied to a chain and included her instead of excluding her. A simple mistake. The email was about quarterly projections, nothing controversial. Nicole started to read it, then noticed the forwarded messages below. Old emails. From 6 months ago. Her heart started beating faster as she read. The subject line, VP Marketing Promotion Decision Points. The email chain was from the executive team, discussing her potential promotion. 6 months before it actually happened. Richard, her boss. Nicole has consistently exceeded targets, strong performer, team respects her. I recommend promotion to VP. Karen, SVP of HR. Agreed on performance, some concerns about cultural fit. Cultural fit. Nicole's stomach dropped. Tom, another executive. What concerns? Karen. Just want to ensure she can relate to our primary client base. Most of our major accounts are traditional relationships. Need someone who can navigate those dynamics. Nicole read that sentence 3 times. Our primary client base. Traditional relationships. Someone who can navigate those dynamics. It was all code. Code for white. Code for she's not one of us. Code for we're not sure if she'll fit in with the people we do business with. Richard responded, Nicole has managed major accounts successfully. I don't see that as an issue. Tom, let's table this for now. Give it another quarter. See how she handles the Henderson account. Another executive, Michael. Agreed, no rush, let's see how she performs under pressure. Nicole's hands were shaking. She had handled the Henderson account perfectly. It was one of her biggest wins that year. She kept reading. Another email from 3 months ago. Karen, I'm revisiting Nicole's promotion. We need to make a decision. Tom, what's the rush? She's performing well in her current role. Richard, she's been passed over 3 times now. We're going to have retention issues if we don't promote her soon. Karen. Also, we've had some informal complaints from other employees of color. Nothing formal, but they're noticing patterns in promotions. Michael, are we concerned about liability? Karen. Potentially. We should probably move forward with Nicole's promotion, but I recommend we restructure the role slightly. Tom, what do you mean? Karen. Reduce the direct reports, keep budget approval at SVP level, give her the title but maintain oversight. Michael. Smart. That way we promote her, address the optics, but don't actually shift too much power. Richard, I don't love that. Nicole has earned full authority for the role. Tom, Richard, you're thinking about this wrong. This isn't about Nicole specifically, it's about maintaining structure. We can give her the title and revisit scope later. Richard stopped responding after that. The final email was from 4 months ago. Karen. Decision made. We'll promote Nicole to VP Marketing. Adjusted scope as discussed. Let's frame it as a new VP structure across marketing department. Nicole sat at her desk staring at her screen. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. She felt cold, calm, clear. They had delayed her promotion for years. Not because she wasn't qualified. Not because she needed more experience. But because they weren't sure if she could relate to their client base. Because they wanted to address optics. Because they were worried about liability from other employees noticing discrimination patterns. And when they finally promoted her, they had stripped the role of its power. Given her a title, but not the authority. Made sure she wasn't actually equal to the white VPs who had been promoted before her. Her promotion wasn't recognition. It was risk management. It was a way to avoid a discrimination lawsuit while maintaining the status quo. Nicole closed her laptop. She sat in silence for a long moment. And then she started planning. Nicole didn't tell anyone what she'd discovered. Not yet. She needed to be strategic. She needed to build a case. That night, she went home and told her husband, James. He was a lawyer. Corporate law, ironically. He knew how these things worked. She showed him the emails. He read them carefully. His face got harder with each paragraph. When he finished, he looked at her. Do you want to sue? Nicole shook her head. Not yet. I need to understand how deep this goes. If this happened to me, it's happened to others. James nodded. Document everything. Get copies of promotion records if you can. Talk to other employees of color. But be careful. If they find out you're building a case, they'll shut you down. Nicole spent the next 2 weeks quietly investigating. She pulled promotion data. She had access now as a VP. She could see things she couldn't see before. She created a spreadsheet. Every marketing employee over the past 10 years, their hire date, their promotion timeline, their race and gender. The pattern was undeniable. White men averaged 2.3 years to first promotion. White women averaged 3.1 years. Black women averaged 5.8 years. Black men averaged 6.2 years. Other people of color fell somewhere in the middle, but all significantly longer than white employees. She looked at current VPs and above. 12 senior marketing leaders, 11 were white. One was her. She looked at who had left the company. 15 talented employees of color had left marketing in the past 5 years. She pulled their exit interview data. Common themes: lack of advancement opportunities, feeling undervalued, seeing less qualified people promoted ahead of them. The data was clear. The pattern was systemic. This wasn't about her. This was about how the company treated all employees of color. Nicole reached out to 3 former black employees who had left. She contacted them through LinkedIn, asked if they'd be willing to talk confidentially about their experience. All 3 said yes. Marcus, who had left 2 years ago. I was there for 7 years. Trained multiple people who got promoted above me. Finally left because I realized I'd never get past manager level there. They didn't see me as leadership material, even though I was leading everything. Jasmine, who left 18 months ago. They kept telling me I needed more experience. Meanwhile, white colleagues with less experience were moving up. When I pointed out the pattern, I got labeled as difficult. That's when I knew I had to leave. Andre, who left last year. I watched them promote 5 people in 2 years, all white, all with less tenure and less impressive results than the black employees who applied. When I asked HR about it, they said promotions were based on merit, but the data didn't support that. Each conversation added weight to what Nicole was building: proof, evidence, pattern. She documented everything, saved copies of emails, downloaded data, created detailed timelines, built a case that couldn't be ignored, and then she had to decide what to do with it. Nicole had the evidence, she had the emails, she had the data, she had first-hand accounts from multiple employees. She could take this to an employment lawyer, file a discrimination lawsuit, go after the company legally. She'd probably win. The evidence was strong, but lawsuits take years. They're expensive. They're exhausting. And even if she won, she'd likely never work in corporate America again. Companies blackball people who sue. She could go to HR. Report what she'd found. Hope they do the right thing, but she knew better. HR protects the company, not employees. They'd probably put her on administrative leave, investigate her for accessing data she shouldn't have accessed, and make her the problem instead of addressing the actual problem. She could quit. Take her evidence and her skills somewhere else, find a company that would value her. But that meant letting Morrison and Blake continue doing this to other people. That meant the next black employee would face the same system. Or she could try something different, something riskier but potentially more effective. She could stay, use her new VP position, push for change from inside, force accountability, make them face what they'd been doing. If this story is resonating with you right now, if you're understanding what Nicole is facing, the impossible choice between protecting yourself and fighting for justice, hit that like button. Let me know this is landing. And subscribe to Black Tales every day. Because we tell these stories about black people navigating systems designed to keep us in our place. About fighting for respect we should have automatically. Every story speaks power. Subscribe right now. Nicole talked to James, talked to her parents, talked to her mentor, an older black woman who'd spent 40 years in corporate America. Her mentor told her, "You can fight this, but understand what you're signing up for. They will make your life difficult. They will try to discredit you. They will retaliate even if they say they won't. Fighting from inside is harder than fighting from outside." Nicole understood, but she made her choice anyway. She decided to stay, to fight, to use her position to force change. Not through lawsuits, through strategy, through making them face their own data, through creating accountability systems they couldn't ignore. Nicole started subtly. She didn't immediately call out discrimination. She framed everything in business terms. At her first leadership meeting as VP, she proposed a company-wide initiative. Let's audit our talent development practices. Let's ensure we're promoting our best performers efficiently. Let's reduce time to promotion so we don't lose talent to competitors. She pitched it as a retention strategy. She used business language. She focused on competition and efficiency. The executives nodded. Sounds reasonable. Have HR look into it. Nicole volunteered to work with HR on the project. Karen, the SVP who had written those emails about cultural fit, tried to decline her help. "We've got this," Karen said. Nicole smiled. "I'd really like to be involved. I have insights from being recently promoted. I know what the process feels like from the candidate side." Karen couldn't say no without it looking suspicious. Fine. Nicole joined the audit committee. And she made sure the audit was thorough. She made sure they looked at data by race and gender. She made sure they couldn't ignore patterns. When the preliminary data came back, Nicole presented it to the committee. Her presentation was clinical. No emotion, just facts. White male employees promote on average in 2.3 years. Employees of color promote in 5.9 years. This represents a significant efficiency gap. We're losing high performers to competitors because our promotion timelines are inconsistent. Karen tried to explain it away. Different departments have different timelines. Nicole was ready. "I've controlled for department. The gap exists across all divisions." Tom, another executive, tried another angle. "Maybe it's about performance levels." Nicole pulled up performance review data. Employees of color have average performance ratings of 4.2 out of 5. White employees average 4.1. Higher performers are taking longer to promote. The room went quiet. Michael, the executive who had talked about liability in the emails, spoke up. "What are you suggesting?" Nicole kept her voice measured. "I'm suggesting we have an inefficiency in our promotion process. We're not maximizing talent. I propose we implement objective criteria for promotions, clear benchmarks, transparent timelines, remove subjectivity." She didn't say the word discrimination. She didn't accuse anyone. She just presented data and proposed solutions. The executives couldn't say no without admitting there was a problem. They agreed to implement her proposals. But Nicole knew they'd resist, knew they'd try to water things down, knew they'd try to make cosmetic changes without real accountability. So she did something else too. While working internally, Nicole also started building external pressure. She reached out to a business journalist she knew, gave her background off the record about promotion disparities in corporate America, didn't name her company, just provided context about patterns. The journalist was interested. She'd been working on a story about diversity in Fortune 500 companies. Could Nicole provide data? Nicole couldn't give her Morrison and Blake's data directly. That would violate confidentiality and give the company grounds to fire her. But she could describe patterns generally. She could point the journalist to public information. She could suggest questions to ask. The journalist started investigating. She filed public records requests. She interviewed former employees. She built her own story. 2 months after Nicole started her internal campaign, the article published, "Fortune 500's Diversity Problem: How Major Corporations Talk About Inclusion But Fail to Promote People of Color." The article didn't name Morrison and Blake specifically, but it described patterns that matched exactly what Nicole had found. And it included quotes from former employees, including the 3 Nicole had talked to. The article went viral in business circles. It sparked conversations on LinkedIn. It got picked up by major outlets. And suddenly Morrison and Blake's board of directors was paying attention. Suddenly the executives who had been slow-walking Nicole's proposals were feeling pressure. The board called a special meeting. They wanted to know if the patterns described in the article existed at their company. They wanted to know what was being done about it. Karen and the other executives suddenly became very interested in implementing Nicole's recommendations. Quickly, within a month, the company announced new promotion policies. Objective criteria, clear timelines, regular audits, oversight committee that included diverse employee representatives. Nicole was asked to serve on that committee, along with 3 other employees of color who had been identified as high performers. The company also brought in external consultants to audit their practices. Real audits, not perfunctory ones. Because now the board was watching. But Nicole knew it wouldn't be that simple. She knew there would be consequences for pushing this hard. The retaliation started subtly. Suddenly, she was being excluded from meetings she should have been in. Her input on projects was being overlooked. Her budget requests were being questioned more thoroughly than other VPs. Richard, her former boss, stopped responding to her emails promptly. Other executives started going around her, talking directly to her team members instead of through her. She was being frozen out, professionally isolated. They were making her role difficult, hoping she'd get frustrated and quit. Nicole documented everything, every meeting she was excluded from, every email that went unanswered, every time someone undermined her authority. She also noticed they were setting her up to fail. They gave her an impossible project, a major client account that was already struggling. If she failed, they could say she wasn't ready for VP. If she succeeded, they'd take credit. Nicole knew the game. She'd watched them play it with other people who spoke up. So she played it smarter. She made sure everything was documented. She CC'd people on important emails. She kept detailed notes of all conversations. She made her work visible to people outside the immediate chain of command, and she succeeded with that impossible project. She turned around the struggling account. She made it profitable. She made it undeniable that she was excellent at her job. They couldn't claim she was failing. The results were too clear. 6 months into her VP role, the external audit results came back. The consulting firm had done a thorough review of Morrison & Blake's promotion practices over 10 years. Their findings confirmed everything Nicole had documented. Systemic disparities in promotion timelines. Subjective criteria being applied inconsistently. Pattern of employees of color being passed over in favor of less qualified white employees. The report was damning, and it was now in the hands of the board of directors. The board called an emergency meeting with senior leadership. Nicole was included. So were the other employees of color on the oversight committee. The lead consultant presented the findings. The data was clear. The pattern was undeniable. The board members' faces were serious. After the presentation, the board chair spoke. "This is unacceptable. This represents legal liability and reputational risk. We need immediate action." Tom, the executive who had advocated for delaying Nicole's promotion, tried to minimize. "We're already implementing changes. We have new policies in place." The board chair cut him off. "The policies are recent. The problems go back years. I want to understand why this wasn't addressed earlier." Karen, the HR SVP, started to explain. "We had some concerns raised over the years, but we addressed them on a case-by-case basis." The board chair looked at Nicole. "You raised concerns?" Nicole spoke carefully. "I became aware of patterns 6 months ago. I brought them to leadership's attention and proposed solutions. Those solutions are now being implemented." The board chair asked the question that changed everything. "What made you aware of these patterns?" Nicole had a choice in that moment. She could be vague. She could protect the executives who had delayed her promotion and discussed her in coded language. Or she could tell the truth. She chose truth. "I was accidentally included on an email chain," Nicole said. "An email chain from 6 months before my promotion, where executives discussed delaying my advancement due to concerns about cultural fit and client relationships. When I investigated further, I found the pattern was systemic." The room went silent. The board chair's expression hardened. "Do you have that email chain?" Nicole did. She'd kept copies of everything. "I do. I'd like to see it now." Nicole pulled it up on her laptop, showed it to the board chair, showed the coded language, showed the discussion of giving her a title with reduced authority, showed all of it. The board chair read it in silence, then passed it to other board members. When they finished reading, the atmosphere in the room had completely changed. The board took action, real action. Within 2 weeks, 3 executives were asked to resign. Tom, Michael, and Karen, the HR SVP who had orchestrated the strategy of promoting Nicole with reduced authority. The company released a statement. Not a generic one, a specific one. Acknowledging they had fallen short on their diversity commitments. Acknowledging that employees of color had faced barriers to advancement. Committing to specific, measurable changes. They also did something unusual. They offered settlements to former employees who had left due to promotion disparities. Not huge settlements, but acknowledgement, compensation, apology. Nicole was promoted again, this time to senior VP with full authority, full budget control, full team. The role she should have had 2 years ago, but more importantly, the system changed. The new promotion policies Nicole had designed were fully implemented. Objective criteria, clear timelines. Every promotion decision reviewed by a diverse committee. No more subjective cultural fit judgments. The company started recruiting differently, actively recruiting from HBCUs, attending conferences focused on diverse professionals, building relationships with professional organizations for people of color. They hired a new chief diversity officer, not a performative role, someone with real authority and budget, someone who reported directly to the CEO. Within a year, the company's promotion demographics started to shift, not overnight, but noticeably. The pipeline of Black and brown employees moving into leadership roles increased significantly. Nicole watched these changes with cautious satisfaction. She knew corporate change was slow. She knew there would be resistance. She knew some people would resent the new policies. But it was progress, real, measurable progress. Word got out about what happened at Morrison and Blake. Not all the details, but enough. Business publications wrote about the company's diversity transformation. They interviewed the new chief diversity officer. They highlighted the new policies. Nicole was profiled in several articles. She talked carefully about systemic barriers in corporate America, about how even companies with diversity statements can have discriminatory practices, about the importance of data and accountability. Other companies paid attention. Some because they wanted to avoid becoming the next Morrison and Blake. Some because they genuinely wanted to do better. Nicole started getting calls. Other executives, other employees of color who had found similar patterns at their companies. People asking for advice. How did you do it? How did you force change without getting fired? Nicole shared what she'd learned. Document everything. Use business language. Present data objectively. Build allies. Create external pressure. Be strategic, not just angry. She also emphasized something important. Individual action isn't enough. The system doesn't change because one person speaks up. It changes when people work together, when former employees share their stories, when journalists investigate, when boards feel pressure, when consumers and investors demand accountability. Change is collective. That's the lesson. But Nicole wanted to be honest about what this fight cost her. She had kept her job. She had gotten promoted. She had created change. Those were victories. But the fight had taken a toll. She had worked countless extra hours building her case, hours she couldn't spend with her husband and their 2 kids. She had missed soccer games and school events because she was documenting discrimination patterns. She had dealt with isolation at work, months of being frozen out by colleagues, months of wondering if she'd made a mistake by staying and fighting instead of just leaving. She had faced imposter syndrome at her new level. Part of her wondered if the board had promoted her again because they valued her, or because they were afraid of more negative publicity. Her therapist helped her work through that, helped her understand that the system wants you to doubt yourself, wants you to think you only succeeded because of the controversy, not because of your skills. Nicole also faced ongoing resistance from some colleagues, people who resented the new promotion policies, who felt the company was lowering standards by focusing on diversity, who blamed her for the executives who left. That hurt more than she wanted to admit. Being seen as the troublemaker instead of the person who fought for fairness. But she reminded herself why she'd done this, not just for herself, for every Black and brown employee who came after her, for the next generation who wouldn't face the same barriers. That made it worth it. Nicole spoke at her alma mater's business school 2 years after everything happened. She was invited to give a lecture on corporate leadership. She told her story. The promotion that took too long. The email she wasn't supposed to see. The pattern she discovered. The fight she waged. The changes she forced. At the end, a student asked her a question. Knowing what you know now, would you have done it differently? Nicole thought about that. I would have documented sooner. Started building my case earlier. Connected with other employees earlier. But fundamentally, no, I wouldn't have done it differently. Because the fight was necessary. Another student asked, what advice do you have for people facing discrimination at work? Nicole's answer was strategic. First, document everything. Dates, times, quotes, witnesses. Build a record. Second, understand the difference between speaking up alone and building a movement. Collective action is more effective than individual complaints. Third, use business language. Talk about efficiency and retention, not just fairness. Make them see it's in their interest to change. Fourth, create external pressure. Internal complaints alone rarely create change. But when boards and investors and the public are watching, companies move faster. She paused. And finally, protect yourself. Fighting discrimination is exhausting. Make sure you have support, therapy, community, people who understand. This work takes a toll. You can't do it alone. The students nodded. Some were taking notes. Some looked overwhelmed. Nicole understood. Corporate discrimination is daunting. Fighting it is exhausting, but necessary, because if people don't fight, nothing changes. This story reminds us that excellence isn't always enough. That being the best at your job doesn't guarantee you'll be treated fairly. That systems are designed to keep certain people out of power, and those systems don't change just because you work harder. Nicole did everything right. She exceeded targets. She won awards. She trained her replacements. She was undeniably excellent. But they delayed her promotion for years. Not because she wasn't qualified, but because they weren't sure she'd fit. Because they were worried about client relationships. Because they could. When she discovered the truth, she had a choice: stay silent and keep her position, or fight and risk everything. She chose to fight. Not with anger alone, with strategy, with documentation, with data that couldn't be denied, with allies who amplified her voice. And she won. Not perfectly. Not completely. But she forced change. She created accountability. She made it better for the people who came after her. That's power. Not perfect justice, but progress. Not individual victory alone, but systemic change. If this story resonated with you, if you've been passed over for promotions you deserved, if you've watched less qualified people move up while you stayed stuck, if you've faced discrimination that was coded in professional language, I need to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. Share your experience. Because when we document these patterns together, when we speak our truths collectively, that's when systems have to change. Share this story with someone navigating corporate America. Someone wondering if they should speak up or stay quiet. Someone who needs to know their experience matters, and subscribe to Black Tales every day. Because we tell these stories. The ones about facing systems designed to limit us. About fighting for respect we should have automatically. About forcing accountability from institutions that resist it. Every story speaks power. This story speaks the power of documentation. The power of strategy over emotion. The power of refusing to protect systems that harm you. The power of turning your pain into policy change. Nicole didn't just get her promotion, she changed the system. She made it so the next Black woman wouldn't have to wait 5 years. Wouldn't have to discover coded emails about cultural fit. Wouldn't have to fight the same battle. That's legacy. That's power. That's what happens when you refuse to stay silent. Remember this. Your excellence matters. Your experience matters. Your documentation matters. And when they try to delay what you've earned, when they give you coded reasons for why it's not time yet, that's when you build your case. That's when you connect with others. That's when you create accountability. Excellence plus documentation plus collective action equals change. Until next time, Black Tales every day, where every story speaks power, where stories touch the soul.